Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second half of Truth Tuesday, which I'm going to check and see if it is live. Yes, it is. And thank you for the likes already. Please remember to hit the like button. I'm going to mute that. It was down really low. You probably couldn't hear it, but I'm still going to mute it. Okay. So, this is second half. First half is over on Lisa, which we went real quick over there today. Um, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Usually you're just interrupting me all the time.
Oh, please.
We had this hilarious moment on World Blockchain Roundtable because it's a show that's hosted by Dragon Chain that we're on. It's a panel show. And I was saying something, and Lisa was like, no, blah, blah, blah. And I said, hey, you can't, this is a regular show. You're not allowed to interrupt me. Like you do all the time. And she said, yes, I am.
Yes, I can.
Yeah, yes, I can. I totally thought it was the funniest thing. Mm-hmm. But we had some interesting conversations over there, and
it's a great show.
Would you call it the elephant?
The elephant rope theory.
Elephant rope theory, which
I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of I call when it comes to people the Area 51 phenomenon. How people they hide in plain sight. And we say it's because of karmatic retribution or whatever, but I think that it just whenever it does, the truth is completely is admitted to. Everyone talks about it being exposed, but when it's admitted to, people are like, "Yeah, we knew, of course. What are you talking about? Yeah. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Like we showed this video of this millennial graphic designer guy who basically is like, I downloaded the Obama birth certificate from, the government website, and he's like, why has no one ever looked at this and seen this? Is obviously, and he was using words that like we don't know, like they were, professional, so like
his illustrator tech, techie words.
The funny thing is that it was a Xeroxed copy. So there was a curve on the side where, when you're like making a copy of a book or something where it's black. He's like, I don't know what this curvature thing is there because he's so far, he's so young and but he's like so leapfrogged technology that he doesn't even recognize what a Xerox copy thing looks like.
My whole point of that was if we know it now and can see it, then we can choose to opt out of that. We don't have to be the dumb elephant that keeps the rope on. We can choose to walk out of the rope. We can choose to accept that is a Xerox copy and tell them to F off. That we don't.
I think the first part is we have to choose, or we have to learn as a
acknowledge
species that we have that power and authority.
Yeah.
Because most people don't, they don't get it. That's the thing. That's the first thing that they don't get is that they can't opt out or that it's not real. Right. That laws aren't real. Like this thing John used to say, which I thought was kind of goofy, but he's like, what's the U.S.? It's just an idea. Government's not real. Right. It's like, what do you say? What's the government? What's the U.S. government? You can't, the Capitol, it's a building. But it's just an idea. Laws are just an idea.
That's what we had to get to this point because of understanding that it is fake, to understand that we opted into it. And that's where they always said you can't get someone to believe that they've been tricked. It's easier to trick a man than it is to them to believe that they've been tricked.
It's easier, because they don't want to admit that they've been tricked.
Yeah. And now I totally get it because even with the video of the lady testifying and saying the IRS is a voluntary system, that we are tricked into volunteering to pay taxes. And because we're afraid of the consequences.
But then she said that I think the basic thing is that laws are voluntary. And I remember when I was a kid, I wanted to be a treasury agent. When I was a little kid, I was obsessed with Elliot Ness and Al Capone. And I was Italian. It was like my
Oh,
culture.
no, I love those movies, yeah.
But I mean the story of it, because uh, I remember being like 4, 5, 6, the whole time, and thinking there was a law and people didn't obey it, and then the government changed the law. Like that to me was the craziest thing I'd ever heard. That the government made legal alcohol illegal, and that people still drank. People still they broke the law. They just like no. Like I grew up, and that's it's so hard to articulate it, because I've told you, growing up north is very different than growing up in the south.
Mhm.
Because up north there's, especially where I grew up, there's so much colonial shit that you're immersed in it. It's like growing up in Europe. There's so much World War II stuff. There's constant reminders. There's so much more. Um, but like going to Philadelphia, like I can tell you how many times I've touched the Liberty Bell, and that every bed and breakfast has a sign that
Washington
Washington slept
Square,
here.
yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
there's like so much. It's a different culture, but so I understood, but there were tyrants, and we fought for independence. It was this huge thing, but to as a kid, you obey and you do what you're told. To be told, oh, there was a law and people just said no. I mean, as an adult, like you're a criminal. Yeah, I'm a criminal. We're all criminals. If, and this really pisses a lot of people off because
On Tom's point, I never obey the speed limit.
exactly, that's what I used to say that when I was really young, because people would, you got to be a law abiding citizen. You can't break. I was like, dude, you break the law all the time.
Yep.
I've never broken the law in my life, because I
Yes.
started with my stepdad, especially because
Mhm.
because he, I've never broken the law in my life. Like, yeah, you do. I was
Mhm.
like, you can drive, you can drive 60 when it's 55, and you're not going to get pulled over. That's not. I said, yes, the
That's
law
right.
is 55. You're breaking the law. Everybody pushes it to what they can legally do. If I could slap people, if it was legal to slap, people would be slapped all the time. You know, I mean, it just, well, that's what stops most people is the consequences of the law. But if you were in a place where, if okay,
I said this about blockchain though, without a transparency. So blockchain's great, but without transparency and enforcement, you have to have enforcement and what did I say? Enforcement, and so we needed transparency, enforcement, because without it, it doesn't matter that it's
you have to
transparent.
have consequences.
You have to have consequences.
When growing
It's
up, I don't know if you remember
why
this, but
it works, nothing works.
they changed the drinking age from 18 to 21, and it was like a huge. I was like a little kid. It didn't matter, but it was what first it started by states. So a lot of places like Texas, like you could go to Oklahoma and drink, or in Oklahoma you go to Texas and drink
Mhm.
if you're 19 or if you're 18, because you could. I mean, imagine being in high school and legally allowed to
Louisiana
drink.
was that way.
So
You
yeah,
could go to Louisiana and
yeah,
drink. Yeah.
it was there was so it was very obvious that laws are, you know it, it's not
Laws are
like
to be interpreted.
but also it's like you choose to accept it. It's not like if I drink this beer and I'm 18 in Texas, that as soon as I drink it something bad's going to happen.
Mhm.
No, it's like you said, there's consequence. You have to be caught. You have to there's you know um but to me, the fact that the country just said no, we're not going to do that, and regular people like en masse chose to drink. um what am I
But then they changed the law
Then they
to
changed the
make
law.
it that about transporting the alcohol across state lines, and that's how they got Capone.
And
Was
one
about
of the one of the best of my actually one of my best friends uh, in Canada,
mm-hmm.
his family made their money. They were the ones that sold the booze to Capone. Um,
Interesting.
yeah, he's a super smart uh, blockchain developer. But one of the coolest things, and this is the big difference in people. I watched the trailer for this uh, documentary that this person made because they don't have anything to do with their family because of Trump winning, and it was like, you know, like to them it was completely normal. It's like, these people are terrible human beings because of the politics. And I was thinking about how much we changed over time. Um, but Elliot Ness, they asked him, "Hey, they're talking about repealing, prohibition and making, this legal again. What are you going to do, champion of the law, the biggest warrior for this? What are you going to do?" And he said, "Oh, I'm going to have a drink." And that was like,
Mm-hmm.
you, the way we used to be able to like accept people for being people, and like it didn't matter what whatever your political views, personal views, whatever, had nothing to do with your job. Everything was merit based. Like I could never imagine someone being fired from their job as a janitor or as a cook or whatever because they were a member of the KKK or because they were a racist or whatever. As a kid, it didn't, like, that's your personal business. You know what I mean? That was more like your personal freedom. People understood that if you can fire that guy because he is, I mean, I think they're bad, I think they're bad things, but if you can fire him because he thinks that way or because he has these opinions, then whoever gets in power could fire you or mess with you because they don't like your opinions. And like everyone used to understand that. And that was the biggest argument when they deplatformed Alex Jones. Everyone's like, no, 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 no. Yeah, sure, let's say he's the worst person in the world. He's an absolute asshole. But if you can do that to him, then someone else can do that to you. Um, and then the whole argument is whenever you lose power, then those people are like, hey, you should have the moral high ground and you shouldn't do this back. And this time, when Republicans took back power, kind of the last election, they were like, "Oh, we're going to start using our power to go after you and to mess things up and to do." And the Democrats were like, "Oh, that's terrible. You shouldn't do that." And they're like, "Yeah, but you did it to us." And, well, two wrongs don't make a right. And actually, that was it doesn't matter. And now people are like, Trump shouldn't go after his political opponents, and he shouldn't have put, that was the whole reason why he shouldn't put Hillary in jail, because he shouldn't have went after his political opponents and blah blah blah. And I think you've got to, like, it's once it's broken, it's broken. It's broken. You know what I mean? And it is broken. They're what they did, what the left did is so bad that when the Republicans come in and say, "Oh, we're not going to do that because it was wrong," then there's no consequence. There has to be a consequence, which then is, but then two wrongs don't make a right. But it's broken. That's it all comes back to the fact that it is just
I
broken.
think it's broken because everybody's been putting off the responsibility on others because they wanted to shirk their responsibility. They wanted to have a representative. They didn't want to take on, they wanted, oh, I paid my taxes. It's somebody else's responsibility. And then they wanted to blame somebody and be a victim of it. But it's like they wanted to have their cake and eat it too, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've seen a
That's
lot of the
that's where we are. And now it's time to roll up our sleeves and say, like, look, nope, you have to care about it. You have to put the work in. You have
You
to
have to
stop.
fix it.
You
You
can't,
have to.
you have to pay attention to what's going on in
I'm
society.
worried because what I see now, the overwhelming uh, opinion is that Trump needs to fix it. Trump is going to fix it.
And
It's
that was my biggest fear.
that is, you are right, and it's not. It's not even a little bit uh, hidden. I mean, all the stuff on Twitter, everyone's like, "Oh, this like one person will save us," and it's like, no,
No,
it's like
the worst thing for everyone.
if
Because then they can go back to sleep. They can all stick
yeah,
their hand in their pants and go watch football again. Everything's
or when everything goes wrong, there's someone to blame. They don't have to have
Yep.
any skin in the game. Um, which it is scary that people are like, oh, Elon is going to save us, and Trump is going to save us here, and then all of a sudden, if they like the H1B1 thing, it's like, oh, our white knight is tarnished. Everything's falling apart.
Well, it's
We
just
can't.
like parenting, Sean. Right now, there's a rumor going around. People are saying that, oh, Trump might be the leader of the New World Order. Are you looking at
Mhm.
that? Oh, he's doing the Greenland thing and whatever. If you look, it mimics the map of the New World Order. And has everybody been like, oh, rallying Trump, Trump, Trump? And it's actually the map of the New World Order. And it's like, oh, wait, did we all just go to sleep and wish
Mhm.
the the bad thing? You know what I mean? And it's like the parents that, look, I'm just gonna give him. Oh, this is a good kid. I want to play on my video
Mhm.
game, and I want to be on Facebook and go out with my girlfriends and whatever. And don't bother me, kid. Don't bother me, kid. And meanwhile, your kid's talking to you know pedophile whatever on Roblox, and you don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
Mm, and then you wonder why they're failing in school and whatever, and you don't know who they're talking to on the internet, and they got a 5-year-old or boyfriend, all this, and then you turn around and they're not talking to you again. And I mean, it we've got to pay attention. We've got to roll our sleeves up. We've got to be the parent.
We,
We
the people, have to. We have the power. That's the thing. We have the power. We have to do
Yeah, but
something.
we've got to do the work.
We got to do the
And that
work.
means we have to get our heads in the game, and we have to pay attention, and we have to care about the outcome.
Also, caring. That's a big thing. And he's a little pissed off, and I think he has the right to be, because Elon and Vivek are talking about, oh my God, look, we paid $5 million to drag queens in El Salvador for shows in El Salvador. They're not even American, but what are we paying them for anyway? And we paid $2 million for this study on which alcohol makes fish more violent, tequila and people are just, oh my God, this is terrible. And was it
But
Rand
they've been
Paul or
doing those
whoever?
studies for
But
every
yeah,
year.
Rand Paul's coming out. He's like, I make a list every year, and
Well, not just him,
I
but
put it out.
Langford does it every year as
Who?
well. Senator Langford here in
Well,
Oklahoma, he does the same list every year.
Rand Paul's like, I put this list out, and I always talk about it on TV, and like people, I'm glad people, like, all of a sudden now people care, because it's a little frustrating, but people should have. It's not like Elon is saving us or Vivek is, because it's like this guy was already putting it out. Um, he was putting the work in, and people weren't caring enough, or people were like, "Oh man, what are you gonna do?" You know, it's dude, the one thing that they have done though, and now people seem to care, is they stopped. They're like, the government's going to shut down. Government shut down, what was it, like 72 times or something in the past, so
Yeah,
many
I know.
years. And then Elon and Vivek said, there's a 1,500-page budget. I read it. And, most of the Congress people don't even read it.
Mm.
He's like, I read it over the weekend, and this is in here, that is in here, this is in here. Why are Republicans or people that are wanting to cut spending signing this? And then all of a sudden they stopped. They stopped that from going through, but that never would have happened before. And then there was a question going around because there was 78 or however many government shutdowns. Does anyone ever remember any of them? And there's one. There's one that I can remember as a kid. We're in Europe, and it was one of the longest ones. It was like 60 days or 90 days or something. But people didn't get paid, and everyone's a government worker overseas.
Mm.
They're all military or GS
I thought
government
the
service.
military still got paid in a
Well,
shutdown.
I remember this maybe because of this, but
Okay.
this was back in the early 80s, and people didn't get their check 1 month. Everyone freaked out because they were obviously in the military. Month
Yeah.
to month is um, it was a huge thing, and then people were like, "Well, I'm not going to work," and that was a whole. You have to work. You're in the army. You have to. You can't strike. You're a cop. It was that kind of no, 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 no. This is how things work, and it's the whole voluntary thing comes back to that. People are like, no, if I'm not paid, I'm not going to do this. Um, but that's the only one that I can remember. But it was a really really long one. Um, I wanted to talk about, but if we could swing back,
Sorry. Yeah.
yeah, what to ask you about. This is something that I heard with Marjorie Taylor Greene said this because Trump had said it, and maybe Musk or someone else had brought it up. But so you, especially Rice, Rice is like this is like a big conspiracy thing with him that the post office runs the world, that the post office has all this power. The postmaster general is the most has the most authority of anyone in your state. They could take your kid or your the prima nocta. They come knock your wife up before you get married. I mean, it's all because, and when you think about it, they were like the first government agency that really was, national. It was the first real arm of the government. So a lot of things do.
Banks,
A
and
lot,
they hold
what?
a lot of
Yeah, I mean that was the, the I always wondered that as a kid. In these old westerns, there were train robberies. They were always robbing the mail, and I never understood why you're robbing the mail. But that was because that was the only way to send anything of value was through the post. Um, but they were talking about selling the U.S. Postal Service, and
recently in the news.
yes, in not that much in the news, but Marjorie Taylor Greene was talking about it because Trump brought it up.
Because they're so inefficient. So, okay,
Yeah,
to
also
piggyback
keep in
on
mind,
this,
it was on the Doge because of the Doge thing that it's because it's inefficient. It's not making money. Hasn't made money forever. So they're talking about privatizing it and selling it. So, but
do you know
then what
do you
would
know
that
what
do?
building? Sorry, I'm so excited. Go
See,
ahead.
I thought this was. I wanted this as soon as I
I'm
heard it. I'm
so
like,
excited.
I would love to ask Lisa her rights about this.
I'm so excited.
Okay, so what about all you know the stuff that goes along with that?
Okay, so couple things. The Postal Service has been flying the POW flag since about the beginning of COVID, which that means they will take no prisoners, which means or that they will kill everyone during the war. They will not take prisoners. They will execute prisoners during wartime. Um, that's what that flying that flag during the time of war means. I just found that out. And if you notice, the Postal Service has been flying that flag
The
during
post
COVID.
office has, and the White House started flying it as well.
So that's one thing.
Okay,
Um,
wait. Let me unpack that because that's crazy.
okay.
The White House started flying that. Also, Biden did in the past few weeks.
No. This is since beginning of COVID for the post office.
No, but I'm talking about. But that's I just because I just heard this. So this guy went and just double checked it because he heard that there was a black flag that certain
Mhm.
things were, and I remember him saying, "Oh, that's because you can't get close to really look at the flag."
Mhm.
So he had to have a really really good telescopic lens, and then there was no wind, and there was a little bit of wind. He had to move, and then you could see it was the POW. And then he said, "Here's the post office. Post office always flies the POW flag." I remember him just saying
No,
that.
it doesn't always.
Okay, so but why does it? Why are you saying that it means that?
Oh, because I looked it up. I did research on it.
What? So what
That's what
is
it
the
means.
basis of it? Of your research
That
that
we're
tells
in
you?
a time of war, and I looked it up, and everyone else should do their own research and look into it and talk
So
to military people and watch channels, and that's what it means. So then
okay, hold on, because I don't think we've been in a war since that flag has been invented.
we haven't not been in a war. So here's the other thing. The United States flag flying like this is war. Until it's like this is peace. Flying like this is a flag at war.
How does you use the word fly, which is a verb? How does
Mhm.
a flag at rest pointing down flying?
Look it up. Unless the flag is like this, that's the United States flag at peace.
But the flag poles don't hang flags that way.
Well, then the flagpole is hanging the wrong way. The United States flag is at war this way. That is a flag at war. This is the flag at peace.
Okay, but if it was that way, you would never be able to raise the flag or run it up the
Not
flagpole.
on that flagpole. Maybe
It's
on a different flagpole or a different form of
the
flying the flag or posting the flag, holding the
I
flag.
thought that the POW flag was made and invented after Vietnam because of the troops that were left behind.
That's possible.
In that
I
case, we
don't know
have
that
not
part.
been at actual war with the country. We've had military policing, things of other words, but we have not had a declaration of war.
I'm not saying that the POW flag is the sign of war. I'm saying that the POW flag means that during a time of war, they will not
Right, but what's the
harbor
okay?
prisoners.
What's the? How do you
But they're
justify that when we've never had a war since that flag's been invented?
oh, that's just what I had watched and seen, and I'll have to get my resources that I
Okay,
watched,
I just
saw,
want to
or
know
whatever.
because it's
So,
not okay
yeah.
because it hasn't been they haven't had a war. Like you could say, well, we had this war and that's what this meant. We haven't had a war since that flag was invented. That's why I'm asking. But go ahead.
Okay. So I don't remember where I heard or saw that. So I'll have to redo my research on that and find that or whatever and redo. Or everybody can look it up for themselves. But that's what I believe. That's what I had heard. So to my own self be true, that is what I believe. Also, the post office was where they would bring the census, and it was the keeper of the census, and it was the bank originally. And so part of the census
These are all your jams. So yeah, this is
a few days was because we had the Pony Express, and so they would give extra time for the census to come in because it was being brought in by horse. And that's also why they had these big fires to destroy the census in different places, because that was a way or effort that then they could recount or disrupt the census to give them bigger numbers, to give power to different areas, to get more seats and renumber areas. That's why I believe, like when Trump was in the garbage truck and he said, I think the number's more like, maybe 250 million. I think our census is wrong. And I think that's where maybe like
oh yeah,
Elon,
yeah. We talked about this. The census is your
yeah,
jam. Why?
I think the census is going to be redone. I think maybe this Elon and the bots and whatever, and I don't know. And maybe that's a big, then there's a whole theory about like, oh, they're going to trick you into um, virtual ID, and that's, the evil ones, global ID, and they're going to tell you it's for freedom and keeping out the illegals, and now you're all mind controlled with the virtual ID. I don't know, but if there's a way to do it through Dragon Chain where we get to keep our data and we don't get we don't lose our identity, where we can have privacy, then maybe there's a safe way to do that. I don't know.
Okay, stay on, because I want you to finally give me about the
Okay.
post office.
So I'm trying to get all the points because there's so many things to talk about here. So then the post office, so then to the bank. Are we trying to get to the bank?
No, how all
some-
the stuff about the post office's power and behind the scenes kind of stuff that you
They
guys don't talk
also
about.
hold
What if they
all these
sold it?
patents.
Yes.
They have and I don't know if you guys remember this, we reported on them back right when I first started all the channels and all that. And Beatles, when we were interviewing him and found out like he was working with the post office and has some patents with them. And then there was like all these patents came out. I don't know if it was 2016. Like, I want to say like 60,000 patents or something insane. Some insane number of patents that the post office puts out magically. Well, why does something like that happen? And so that is why I think also, do you guys, I don't know if some of them aren't old enough or whatever, but all of so your address, and some of this is that opting in. Did you go get your new address assigned to you? Remember, I don't know, was it in the 80s when they gave everybody a new zip code and your address has capital letters or your first name? That's that whole capital letter first name thing, and everybody got new zip codes with the dash after it. Do you remember all that? When the zip code
dash thing, yeah.
with the dash thing.
I have a question about what you said.
There's a whole thing about that.
The post office has a bunch of patents, which I don't understand, because the post office is not a person, or it's not even an entity. It's part of the federal government. So would the federal government own? Doesn't just the government have the patents?
I don't know, because what's very interesting about this, I have done some work with Reggie Middleton and all that, and only a person can apply or hold patents. Mm-hmm. A business cannot. So a person would have to have applied for or been granted the patents. So how could but then there's the Secrecy Act, the Patent Secrecy Act.
How does a company patent an invention? Coca-Cola recipe.
So a person would have to apply and be granted the patent, and then it could be like gifted or given or assigned or whatever to a company. But it's only first through an individual, is my understanding.
Okay, but if
or held by in
how
trust.
would that work then? If they did sell if they sold because we're so far away from finding out if they
it may not even be sold. So there is what's called
they sell the post office, like the fleet of all the trucks, the people's pensions. There's so many layers of.
Well, it's probably just held in a trust, and it just goes in one trust to the next. It's like it's a one single transaction. It's a single transaction. It's just one trust. It's one trust.
But all that stuff's like I can understand that, but all the stuff you're talking, keep going. You're going.
I mean, I think that's pretty simple. It just becomes the next thing. It's like when any other business, people worry about like, oh no, whatever's my favorite brand of whatever's being taken over by this or that. Well, the end user really doesn't have an effect, it's just this new business owns it now, you know, like the end user isn't really affected by it, that just the new company took it over. And like there's a big merger right now. Is it Toyota or Honda? Nissan's being bought out by either Honda or one of those. But people driving Nissans won't be affected by that. They're going to keep driving their little Nissan car, and they aren't affected by it. But there will be some merger happen, and some big company will come in and they'll rebrand all the, you know, big stores, and all the big corporate things will happen and whatever. There'll be some signing of a document, and people will get fired and lose their jobs and whatever. New training and rebranding and all the things.
Okay, but you were talking about the post office and all that, all the stuff that it did. So could they, like, what would happen?
I'm no expert on the post office, but I'm just very curious about it all.
But what does that do to all the conspiracy stuff when it comes to selling it?
Well, I think they're talking about the fake government, the corporation not controlling it anymore. Because it's my understanding that the corporation is bankrupt. And so if they're selling off the assets of the bankrupt corporation, then it's going to be privatized. So then it becomes like, you know, Amazon and FedEx are more efficient. So then it becomes privatized. So then like the mail service delivery parts would be privatized. So we'd have a more efficient mail service delivery part, and maybe the patents become open and available on the free market, available for different corporations to be able to purchase to use in their business structures or something. I'm totally guessing, but that's what I am guessing would happen. So maybe that'd be a good thing.
Okay.
What do you think?
Yeah. Also, companies can get a patent. It can be more than one person, so it could be a board.
Yeah.
And so on, but then they assign the patent.
Because it could be divided up, and multiple companies could buy different pieces of, the passport portion of the company. Could be one company could take that over and do passports. One company could do
that's like
PO box stuff.
That's another thing. I forgot about that. Holy crap, you're right. Like, they're the ones that do passports.
Mm-hmm.
So that would have to be turned over to something. And that's one thing that I thought was weird, interesting, because you especially Rice. Rice is like, this is his deep rabbit hole.
Oh, I'd love to hear what he has to say about this.
It's deep. It's like, dude, like the shadow government is the post office. The fringe flag. Everything comes back to the post office. The post office is like the
we should see if he'll join us like next Tuesday and pick his brain.
So to me, when I heard Marjorie Taylor Greene talk about, we're talking about selling the post office, that'd be smart. We'd make a bunch of money, and we wouldn't have that albatross around our neck, dragging us. I was like, but then, and I didn't even think about the passport. To be the passport office, that is connected to Homeland Security, to Interpol, that is like the State Department, all of that. When you talk about the passport,
I actually just met with a lady that she is a regional postmaster for our area for over several states, and her kids bought my dining room table, my formal dining room table set, and she was here taking care of the baby and whatever while they were moving it. And so I was picking her brain, of course, asking her all my conspiracy questions, or as many as I could without making her feel uncomfortable. And I said, I noticed there's these new signs up, pretty prominent, talking about, the passport thing now. And you guys are doing like all the pictures now. And it's mentioned that you have digital ID and that you're doing digital fingerprinting. Is that in every location? And she said, well, we're trying to get it in every location. It's in most major locations. And eventually we're hoping to have it in every location. And so I thought that was really interesting that they had brought in all this new equipment over the Great Infection, just like they were changing, during the Great Infection, they're moving these ITMs into these banks, bringing this, technology in, changing ATMs and putting coin machines into Walmarts and Lowe's and banks, and changing the ATM machines to accept coin machines. Well, the post office is bringing in digital thumbprint into their passport machines. During Great Infection. Just really interesting that this would be happening during the Great Infection.
It is. Well, but like, I've always said, don't let any good crisis go unused.
Yeah.
The Greenland thing was kind of interesting. I just wanted to say something on that. So, super offensive that Trump's talking about buying Greenland and like they're a commodity and everything. It's a country. They're pissed off.
Maybe they want to be here.
He sent Eric up there. Who's going?
He was there. I thought he was there.
What?
Trump.
Where?
At Greenland.
Well, but what it has done is they are now fighting for their independence from Denmark.
Interesting.
Which that's a big deal. I mean, which I think they should. I mean, I honestly, like, until all this stuff was brought up years ago, I never knew they were not their own country. I never knew they weren't, their own. It's a small country. There's not a lot of people, but it's Greenland. It's a place that you go and for like visiting and, it's tourism, and it was Greenland. It's huge. Also, super, a lot of the wealth of natural resources.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess they've never had to really stand on their own because they were like under with Denmark, We've used them. What?
Share this picture real quick.
Okay. What is it?
Well, could that be why? USMCA. Did you know that Trump's new plane has 54 stars on it?
You said something about 54 stars, yeah. They do not want to be part of the United States. They do not want to be bought by the United States.
We'll see.
I can understand that.
So why are they fighting to be free from, what did you say?
Denmark. Because Denmark, the king they could sell it. They could sell it to the United States. They don't have power. So they want to become their own country, stand on their own feet. Then I guess they could start mining their own oil and doing their own stuff and having their own economy and having to take care of shit. Canada is a different story. Canada,
maybe we all become free.
I think would I think most Canadians would welcome, becoming part of the United States.
Maybe even the United States become free.
Yeah, that would be cool. Also, I've looked into this a little bit because there's, like, do you know there's certain laws on becoming a state?
Becoming a state,
yeah,
a part of the Americas,
right? Requiring to become the United States of America, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Becoming a
but
state.
Maybe we don't become a part of the United States of America. Maybe you just become a state.
No, you can't do that. But there's certain rules. Did you know? My question was, did you know there's rules?
No, I didn't.
Yeah. So one of the provinces of Canada does not have the population to become a state.
Really?
Yeah.
So they could merge with another.
That's province. Literally what they would do is part of Washington there's like a chain of islands, which is not a ton of people. It's like in the tens of thousands of Washington. But if that merged with the group of islands in that part of Canada, it would put them over the legal amount to be able to become a state. So they're talking about this being worked out. Are you frozen? She is frozen. I'm about to have some mushrooms. Who won't accept fiat? Well, maybe I'm frozen. I actually don't know. Several since purchased Greenland since 1867. Well, I guess that is Lisa is the one. That is frozen. I'm going to end it. It was great hanging out with you guys. We went over 45 minutes anyway. Yep, she's back. You're back. You froze.
I had to reconnect to my phone data. My Wi-Fi's out of the house.
Yeah, now people are telling me she was. Yeah, there's like a little delay, but I was ending it. It was good hanging out with you guys. It was fun. It was a lot of cool stuff to talk about. I won't do the Rosa Parks one, even though it's hilarious. What is this one? What is that one? I don't know. Oh, here, this one. Bitcoin jumped way over 100,000, and now it's retracting. So we'll play old moron here.
Bitcoin itself is a hyped up fraud. It's a pet rock.
You're back to that?
Yeah,
Really?
Of course, yeah.
But it has all the characteristics of a store of value. It's immutable. It's scarce.
Totally untrue. It's
21 million.
Well, yeah, really. How do you know it's going to stop at 21 million?
Because
I've mentioned this to people
Satoshi.
Everyone says that. Well, maybe it's going to get to 21 million, and Satoshi's picture is going to come up.